What is Bill Perkins' secret sauce?
I think my biggest secret sauce is not giving a fuck.
That's Bill Perkins, best-selling author, high-stakes gambler, and millionaire energy trader. Last year, he made $100 million from trading natural gas and oil.
You made $100 million in a year?
Yes.
But he wasn't always the million-dollar man he is today.
When you have to stay at home, living in a little room with your mom, can't get laid, cramping your style, this sucks and the real world's hitting you.
He traded his way to the top by taking some massive risks.
And we were down 50%, some ungodly number.
In this interview, I sat down and asked him how making $100 million changed his life.
I hear it all the time. It's like, oh, you have enough. I'm like, you don't know what the you're talking about. Call it money, Chuck E. Cheese tokens, whatever. I don't give a shit. I care about what choices does this enable me to have.
What it's like paying taxes on $100 million.
What's been your biggest tax bill?
54 million?
That's a big tax bill.
Yeah, it hurts.
Bill Perkins, everybody.
Bill Perkins is not living the dream. Bill Perkins is enjoying the dream.
The question is, whose dream? My dream.
Let's dive in.
For the people that maybe aren't familiar with you, what's like the 30 seconds, who's Bill Perkins?
I think I'm just a regular person going in life. I grew up in Jersey City, wanted to be rich because I was very influenced by what was perceived as rich people being able to do, which is whatever they wanted, have nice things, etc. And that was marketed to me. I worked my way through being like a peon, screen clerk in commodities up to a commodities trader.
How did you get into this career? Because you're the third person that we've interviewed in energy trading.
Yeah.
And they're all super rich. And I have zero idea still what energy trading is. We'll get to that. But how did you get started in this career?
I really wanted to get into equities, but I had there's a spot for a screen clerk. I didn't know what a screen clerk was. And I got introduced to the floor. And back then it was open outcry and it was like chaos, people yelling and screaming.
It's to buy and sell stocks?
Yeah, buy and sell commodities like oil, natural gas, heating oil back then. Natural gas wasn't even a contract back then. My thought, being like an arrogant 20-something, was like, wow, if these idiots can be rich, so can I. I went from serious super slacker, like least likely to succeed, to, turned it on to 100 and learned as much as I could.
What changed? What sparked that?
Necessity. Like when you have to stay at home and, living in a little room with your mom, can't get laid, cramping your style, and realizing this sucks and the real world's hitting you. You have two choices. You can become a victim or turn it on.
And so how did you grow in your career to get to your first million? Was it as a commodities trader?
Yes. So I was a screen clerk and worked my way up, learned as much as I could, and finally got into a trading position. And traders generally, by and large, eat what they kill. And so that was like, oh, that's where I want to be, to get a percentage of what you make.
What was that like for you to get to the first million? Like you said, hey, I wanted to be rich. I was dreaming of all this stuff. How did it feel when you finally got there?
It was kind of anticlimactic. Commodity trading is a puzzle, and I think humans are puzzle-solving creatures, right? We love solving puzzles, and this is like a puzzle that's constantly changing, and the feedback is fairly instant. Instantly, hot stove, great trade, hot stove. You know what I mean? Like the feedback loop is very close to the action with trading, and it's complex enough, but not intractable. And I enjoyed solving that puzzle, and I really enjoyed the life that it could potentially afford me. When I got the money, I had been so conditioned on trying to make it, I forgot why I made it. I became disassociated from the reward, right? It was all abstract. It was just dollars. The first time when I made $35,000 a year, that was probably the most exciting time in my life in terms of making money. I got to 50-something, and then I was like, I make more money than my mom. I am a badass. That felt the best. Way more than the million. Way more. Million, 10 million, 100 million. 100 million years are just kind of like, oh, I made 100 million.
You made 100 million in a year?
Yes.
All right, we'll get to that story. What are you trading? What is happening to make this money? Because you're the third person I've been fortunate to meet that's done well.
We're trading natural gas. So I trade natural gas and power, betting on whether the price is going up, down, whether relative spreads are going, or how volatile it's going to be. Same thing, but in commodity space. Most of the people think we're competing against each other like other hedge funds. We're not. All our money is from people that are actually in the commodity business who don't give a shit. They're like, hey, I found natural gas, and it cost me $1.25 to make it, and it's trading $2.50. I want to hedge and lock in the money and run. I will sell you a strip of natural gas for 2 years for $2.50. And we're like, okay, we'll buy it at this price because we think this is a fair price and it'll go up. And hedging is where we make the money, because the buyer of that, let's say a power plant's going to come on and says we need to buy gas. He's not there at the same time, right? Okay. The people hedging for different reasons are not at the same time. So somebody needs to warehouse that risk in the meantime, given the information that's going on. Sometimes we get it wrong, we get ran over. You know what I mean? Sometimes we get it right? That's where the money comes from. It doesn't come from me being right versus J. Aaron or Morgan Stanley or et cetera. It comes from people that need to hedge, that like a farmer. I'm going to plant this crop. The crop's going to come out next year, and I need this price to make money. Somebody has to come in and speculate and say, I'll buy at this price. I think it's going to be higher. That's where the money is made.
Well, if someone was young and they're just getting started, or even old, and they're like, hey, I want to make $1 million maybe in this energy trading, what would you recommend for them to go do?
Wow, it's really hard. I would recommend them go to a place to learn. Usually the banks or some sort of internship where they can actually learn. And that's where you can cut your chops, work your way up to being an analyst and then seeing if I want to be a trader. But not everybody can be a trader. It doesn't matter how bright you are or how smart you are. There's a certain level of stoicism you have to have. And I've said this before, I don't know if you heard it, like most people require 5 to 7 positive events to make up for 1 negative event. If you're the best trader in the world, like God mode, you're 60-40? And so there's a very few select people who can handle that. The emotional math is, I need 5 days or 7 days of good days for one. It just doesn't work, right? So then your prefrontal cortex and that stress and that cortisol stops to work and you just break down. It's not worth it to you. Who can handle that many bad days and still function properly.
How did you practice that skill?
I think it can be learned, but I think some of it is just innate. I don't know how you get it innately, but I think certain people do practice it, right? They have they read all the Stoics and they meditate and they do everything, but there's certain people who are just like, it is what it is.
What were some of the wilder stories on the big wins or big losses in your trading?
We had a huge drawdown. One of the things I told my investors, they were worried because they see my lifestyle. They're like, oh, you're going to quit, right? We're going to give you a bunch of money and we're going to invest in you and then you're going to quit in 2 years or 3 years. And I told them, I won't quit you until you quit me. And we were down 50%, some ungodly number for commodity trading, right? And I thought these guys are going to pull all the money, we're going to be done. And it takes a certain amount of capital just to run the fund just for expenses. And my CFO was like, you should shut down the fund. We should fire these people. You should just trade your own money or whatever. And I was like, nope. I'm going to chop wood. And my investor said, they're not going to quit me until I quit them. I'm not quitting. And so chop wood obviously made 200 or something percent the next, very quickly and came back and made the money and the rest is history. I think a lot of people were really depressed and distraught. And I was just like, this is what we do. If you're a boxer, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get punched in the face, right? If you're an insurance agent, the storm will come. There will be the bad time, right? The plane will crash into the tower. Whatever it is, right, it's going to happen, and that's the game we're in. And so if you can't handle that, you shouldn't be in the field.
What's it like to make $100 million a year?
I don't want to work for nothing. So $100 million is, who gives a shit? What I care about is what experiences and choices is it going to allow me to have. When I time bucket out my life into things I want to do, it's okay, I want to have another kid. I like riding trains. I want to be able to ride trains. I want to move from here to here. What does this cost, et cetera. So, and what are the things that I would want to have that I don't have that the money would now afford me? So I think of those things. Call it money, Chuck E. Cheese tokens, whatever. I don't give a shit. I care about what choices does this enable me to have. So when you make the money, whatever it is, if it's $5 or $100 million or $5 million, I'm like, what is that associated with? I hear it all the time. It's like, oh, you have enough. I'm like, you don't know what the you're talking about because you don't know, you have no clue. I can name probably 10 events, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to be ostentatious about it. But as you make more money, you get exposed to more things. There's people that have never been to a concert, can't afford a concert. A lot of people have never flown out of the country. They don't know. But until you do it, then this whole world opens up and you're like, oh, cha-ching, this is the price tag.
How much is enough for you? I
haven't really calculated number. I think I am actually at that point.
Can you share what the number is or around?
Nah. But I think I'm close to the point where I am purposely identifying a thing. What am I risking what I have to get more of what I don't have? You know what I mean? Why am I risking this? My time, right? My time and my money. Why am I risking this? If I'm risking this, there's got to be a reward, right? So I'm risking my time and my money to get what? And so I identify the what. I like renting a yacht in the summer. Probably I'm 55. Say I make it to 86, 31 years, probably 20 years of that, 20 times the yacht rental plus the wink plus the APA. I like that money.
That's not cheap.
So I can attach it though, right? Even if it's not cheap, I can attach it to this is what I'm working for.
What's been your biggest tax bill?
54 million? Yeah, it hurts.
That's a big tax bill. I mean, it also means you made a lot of money, but it's also, it's a lot going to the government.
It is most angering, I guess, to everybody. It doesn't really matter when you see how that capital is allocated. Like, you realize that obviously when you're shipping your money off to a government entity, that you're not going to agree with everything.
What is Bill Perkins' secret sauce? Because there are a lot of people can watch this and I would say like, hey, I'm going to be an energy trader. I'm going to go join a firm and I'm going to work my ass off.
It's not. Like a lot of people, I guess the secret sauce is enrolling people in my vision and getting way badasses to be on my vision on the team and then execute. Most of the time I'm trying to fire myself except where I'm the tip of the spear. So in trading with my book, I'm the tip of the spear. I have to use my own neurons, etc. But at the end of the day, I know I'm not the best person for whatever it is. My job is to like protect the vision and hire other people to execute the vision. And so delegation, giving them people, you know, risking my capital and my time, getting them on mission and letting them run the show is like my superpower. There's a millionaire for every field. Doesn't matter if it's like sweatpants, sneakers, shoe lastings, food, television, media. It doesn't matter. Podcasting, like, doesn't matter. There's a millionaire in every single field. If you want to be Pizza Hut, you can't be the guy making the pizzas and delivering the pizzas, right? You have to delegate and you have to think strategically, and then you got to hire somebody else to run that and then pick the next location and then that and then that. And then you're the guy who runs the vision, but you're probably not the best guy at all. And I have a lot of people like, well, I started this and I built this, and they're attached to it. I'm just like, okay, you'll always be a mom and pop, and when somebody puts a bullet in your head, your business dies. But I can kill the whole executive suite of IBM and it'll still keep going. My thing is like I put people who are better than me in positions to do whatever it is the thing is. Like I love to fire myself. And then it's just a machine. Most people don't try, not because they can't handle the financial risk, it's because they can't handle the emotional shame of their friends and the ridicule if they fail, right? Well, if I fail, then I'll be here or whatever. Like, who cares? You can get a job as a waiter and make 50, 70 grand a year on tips, right? Like, you got the skills, you got subject verb agreement, I'm sure you could be a waiter. But their ego won't let them be a waiter or a garbage person or whatever, right? And they're worried about, oh, see, you went and you started and you failed and your friends, your mom said you shouldn't have done it, whatever. But I don't care. That paralyzes so many more people than that are willing to admit it. And I just don't have that as much as everybody else.
Can you share for the people that don't know about Die with Zero?
It really depends on your audience. Like, it's a counterfactual regret minimization algorithm solving for net fulfillment.
Yeah. That's a programmer version?
Yeah, it's a programmer version. What this book is basically giving you the mental models, okay, to solve for net fulfillment. There's a lot of books like How to Get Rich and How to Be Wealthy, right? Like you have a
$1 Million Weekend.
Yeah, $1 Million Weekend. A lot of podcasts, whatever. They're out there. They're great. So it takes your wealth. That's one variable. It takes your health. There's a lot of books on health and podcasts and everything on health. And then your time. Those are the three variables, right? Because you're a human being. There's two things that are given. You will eventually die and you will decay. And so given those three variables, how do we use those resources throughout our life from wherever we are to maximize for net fulfillment? And how do we allocate those resources throughout our life so that we can have the most fulfilling life possible? The assumption is that the purpose of life is to be fulfilled. I'm value agnostic. I'm not like, to be fulfilled, you should, hike the Himalayas and pray to the Buddha or be a Muslim. I don't care what your values are, right? Your values could be strip clubs, it could be checkers. I'm saying basically giving those variables, how do we think about each phase of our life, each day of our life, and how do we allocate these resources throughout the life to have the most fulfilling life possible, because you only get one ride. And that's what the book is about.
In the book, you actually say there was a moment that changed your life where you started thinking about spending more of this money. What was that story? Because I don't know if I saw it in the book.
So there's a period in my life, I read this book called Your Money or Your Life by, is it Robin and Dominguez or whatever? It's in the top 100 books almost every year. And it is the book that launched the FIRE movement. Have you ever heard of the FIRE movement? Financial Independence, Retire Early. That's kind of like their Bible. So I read this book, and the book basically has you go through this exercise where you take in all the money you get, net, after taxes, right? And then it now has you calculate all the time you spend to get that money. So that's the commute to work, going to work, the hours you work, the commute back, right? And any kind of, if it's decompression time or whatever, that's fine, dressing, whatever. All the cost of going to work, the cost of transporting work, the costume you have to wear if you have to wear a suit or whatever. And then once you have all that time and versus your net, you divide it and you find out what your true hourly, an hour of your time is worth. because that's what you're willing to spend your time for, right? So you, whatever, let's say it's like $5 an hour at the time for me, or whatever, $7 an hour. And so it's very didactic and it's very painful. But then after you've done that for a week, each penny, right? Instead of looking at like, you know, I'm going to the movies, right? And it cost me, you know, $7 to go to the movies or $5 to the movies at the time. You would say, it's going to take an hour of my life. I'm going to give up an hour of my life to go see this movie. I'm going to buy this shirt. It's going to take 3 hours of my life. And so it's really eye-opening. Like it's like you're like after you've done that for a while, like when you start thinking of everything in time, that's 20 minutes, that's 5 minutes, the sandwich is this, right? Like it's like you're in the matrix. You're like, holy shit. You start to get in touch with your values, because sometimes you say things you're like, I'm not going to give up 3 hours of my life for this thing. So I became pretty frugal, like a master saver. Buying, you know what I mean? Like not doing time, etc. And I was working on the exchange floor in a business where you're trying to get rich. And I was talking to a friend at work about like how I had saved $1,000, which was like an astronomical amount of money to save, you know, driving a limo at night, whatever. And my boss at the time, Joe Farrell, overheard that, and he was like, "Are you a idiot? Like, what are you doing saving that money?" He's like, "You think you came here to make $1,000, $2,000?" He's like, "Go spend that money, have fun." He's like, "You came here to make millions." You know, he was just like, leaned into me. Why is my poor ass broke self saving money to give it to my future rich self, right? This guy right here, right? Not that I knew I was going to be successful in commodity trading, but I was working at a job at a lower salary for the opportunity anyway. Like I could have went and waited tables and made more money. Like I was like, he's right. And so I kind of ping-ponged from being frugal to spending money like water, right? Like I went on one autopilot to autopilot saving money to autopilot spending money, right? Like just going absolutely nuts. Like didn't matter how much money I made, spent every last penny of it, right? And that's not the way to be either. But that was kind of like the first like snap into it, right? If I don't want to spend hours of my life and give up hours of my life for money and not spend it, that would be dumb. Like actually give up hours of my life and not spend it. So I have to spend it down before I die, right? And so I started thinking a lot about like, when is max spend? When how does the spend curve look, et cetera? Main thing is like getting off autopilot, like spend, or save, right? Like it's like, okay, what's a real framework, right? What's an algorithm I can have? I actually wanted to build a computer program to tell me, so I wouldn't have to think. Like I told you, I'm lazy as So I was like, I wanted to get like these programmers to get together, and I could just be like, you haven't spent enough money. Here's activities that you should be doing that you love, whatever. Like literally like to chat and tell me, you know, so I can have the most fulfilling life.
What would you recommend for someone who's making 50K? Which is a lot of the people out there today. You know, they're not at these, you know, crazy numbers.
Yeah, because it's not about crazy numbers. It's about choices. One of the things that I don't do is like I don't watch TV unless my wife wants to watch a series and we're spending time together, and that, you know, we're bonding, and I will not watch TV. I can watch every single show that ever existed when I'm 90 in an old folks home eating tapioca pudding. Right now, I'm gonna go hiking, I'm gonna go biking, or whatever. There's no money, right? It's just optimizing my time here on planet Earth, right? Because if you do it wrong, if you're like, I watch Friends all this time and all this TV, and now I'm gonna do the heli skiing or whatever, but I can't because my back hurts or I don't have the lung capacity, you missed out. The person at 50K still gets to die with zero philosophy. It's not about having a bunch of money. It's about having the mental framework to get the maximum fulfillment at any wealth level. I've said it before, you might have heard me say, life is like Tetris. If you don't get the order right, you don't get the high score. And so like you're married and you're having 2 kids. You're going to the strip club days were earlier. You know what I mean? This is not go to strip club time. So it's really about thinking about the arc of your life, what resources you have, your wealth, health, and time, and how do I make these decisions? That's what the book is about, right? Like people say, oh, this is for rich people. No, it's not. It's for every human being alive that wants to have the most fulfilling life.
I love that. You made me think about my brother, where I don't think he's a doctor. He doesn't care for patients. He doesn't like his job. And I think he's slowly pulling back from working and trying to find the balance of getting off autopilot and living. Not just like, okay, I gotta work, and then hopefully one day I'm gonna enjoy it. And so I think your book and this message is like, let's find that right balance where you're not wasting these working hours where you can have enjoyment hours, especially based on where your health is.
What happens to people who have been like going in, doing the routine, going to work for years, they've been doing it for 15, 10, 20 years. They forgot what it's like to be in the gym of life. They don't know how to meet their neighbors and go to dinner. They don't even know how to pick a restaurant that's not on a route to work. They don't know how to travel. They forgot all the things that they really loved. And even the things that they think they love, they don't know how to do it. They don't even have the taste for it anymore. And so what I tell them is like, don't give up. It just takes time for you to re-familiarize yourself with life. Like life has been passing you by and those muscles have been atrophying. That's what happens when people are like, oh, I retired, what am I gonna do? I'm like, are you kidding me? Of the infinite gajillion things you can do in life, you're just like, what am I gonna do? The what am I gonna do neurons have even decayed, right? This is not you live my life. Like I am like the worst role model there ever was. Like I've made so many goddamn mistakes. Like the reason why I know shit is because I made enough mistakes to like, that shit don't work. I got divorced, gone broke, I've been angry, I've been not forgiving people, I've done a lot of things. Like I've done a lot of things that are like not good. I'm not the role model, right?
I was curious advice for marriage, because you said you were divorced and you had regret.
Wow, there's so many pieces of advice, people, and they're so much better than me. But I think one of the things is like forgiveness is like he's so huge and you have to forgive yourself. And then two, a lot of people have the belief that you discover the person, you find the right person. I think that's actually bullshit. I think you actually build. You find somebody you can build with and you keep building. That person's gonna change, the fucking pipe's gonna break, whatever. It's always maintenance and it's always work. And so if you're always working, you can always be in integrity, and then you can always build. And so you build a life in that partnership. You don't find somebody that's like, I got the person, and now I don't love them anymore, or whatever. You don't find, that's Hollywood bullshit. You find somebody that's compatible with your builder, they commit to building, and you build a life together. And you're always building, forever.
Do you regret divorce? Or?
It's weird because it's like, it's one of those questions, it's like, would you change who, you know what I mean? If I don't get divorced now, like I don't have this life or whatever. I regret who I was and I regret the mistakes of not doing my best. I regret when I don't do my best.
You don't regret working too much or?
Yeah, there's times I definitely regret working too much. And that's just me being on autopilot and not thinking about, wait, that shit, go hang out with your kids and read another story. If I was like really thinking about it, not just in the moment in that time, but the total arc of my life, right? And their life and how everything fits together, you know? Like, I know there's people who's like, oh, never have any regrets. I'm like, I regret when I don't do my best.
How do you like to enjoy your money? Like the resources and things you've done? Like what have been some of the experiences that you're like?
I mean, most of it is like, I think travel is like, if you said like, what is like kind of like your thing? Like I like challenging my worldview and going traveling and meeting people and seeing different places, how people live. They have a whole different way of life, a whole different way of thinking things, a whole different way of eating. Like the foods I like are the things that have been inculcated to like. Like I don't eat fried crickets and shit. That repulses me because I didn't grow up eating fried crickets, right? Like, so I love realizing like, oh wow, I've been, a lot of the things that I think like, I love this, I've been trained to love. And I love doing that with friends and family. You know, if you say my best purchases, it's been boats. Like that boat holds 16 people. We hang out, we turn on music. Everybody's learning something that keeps you in a zone of learning so you don't stay in the land of frustration too long. And it doesn't get bored because you can always learn something. So you're always in the zone of learning. And you're doing that with friends and you're creating memories and you get to talk about that later. And you're bonding and meeting new people. So I love things like that. That's what, you know, turns me on, fulfills my life.
How else have you enjoyed the money? Because we came here to your property. You have like, there's a full-time security guard. There's like 2 chefs. You were telling me on the phone earlier you have a driver. Seems like there's like some kind of cool ways that you've optimized around that too.
Yeah, and at first I didn't want a driver. I thought it was like very ostentatious and bullshit. Like who the gets a driver? But I was talking to my friend Sanjay, and we were talking about longevity. We were actually talking about health, and he said one of the lowest hanging fruits you can do now as a wealthy person was to get a driver. And the reason why is a driver's not distracted. They're not on the phone. You're not on the phone. You can tell them never go more than 5 miles over the speed limit, etc. And they're on 10 and 2. And then you actually change the odds to equivalent or less than flying deaths. That is a life hack in terms of my longevity. On top of that, I get the productivity back. Because when you're driving, you know, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes, an hour of my life gone that I could be watching a podcast like yours and learning about something or reading or working or trading or whatever. You know, those 3 variables, your wealth, your health, and your time, nothing's more important than your health. It affects everything. Like if your knees are f***ed up and you have knee problems because you were 40 pounds overweight for too long or whatever, and you go to Paris and it's a great walking city and you can't walk around, you just got like 1/100th of Paris, right? And so your fulfillment score, from God's view, right, from the simulator, is like went way the down. right? One of the things that I don't have to think, right? Like I don't have to waste the neurons is like my protein, fats, and carbs intake, they know it. When I go to a restaurant, they tell me what to order. So it's not like a lot of people's like, oh, you have a chef to be a fancy It's like, no, I just want to be a healthy and living and I'm just lazy.
What other things like
there is a convenience factor out of it. It's great.
Yeah.
Like, hey, chef, you know, $40 an hour people doing $10 an hour work. And I'm just like, what the are you doing? Dude, do you know how much your neurons in your body can produce with that time? And you're doing 10, like, first of all, give somebody else a job, get the velocity of money going, right? And then free up your time to pursue your other dreams or your other habits, whatever the dream of your life is. I have people who ideate, like where to go. And I'm going to introduce a random number generator for where to go. You're like, why am I? You're just
I'm waiting for the idea. Okay.
Right. So if I do the things that I'm going to travel, like if I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to Vietnam, because I do want to go to Vietnam. If I want to go here, I'm already doing something cookie cutter, brought onto me by the culture. It's quasi-original. But if I have a random number generator, it says, no, you're going to Kazakhstan, because it just picked Kazakhstan, then I'm actually going to do something unique, and I'm going to explore something, and not just an extension of that. And so that's the random number generator to get me out of my own version of cookie cutter, right?
What are you teaching your kids about money and the value of time? Like the money and values. What are you teaching your daughters?
The hardest thing I have teaching is my kids, because they see the end result and they don't get to see the entire process. So I try and show them the process to get there. But really I try and teach them about happiness, like how to navigate the world to choose the life they want. I want them to understand net present value and future value, right? Like these are things like I think every single human being on the planet should understand very well. And that's something that like you have to like give many examples. So you know, it's like, oh, if you can use it in a health example. It's like, if you just eat 200 calories extra a day, like one cookie or one snack, those bags or whatever, you'll be 36 to 40 pounds overweight in 2 years, right? You save, you know, there's tons of examples. You put in $200 a day, you'll have this at 65. Like, yeah, I'm like, great, thanks. I'm not trying to have a party at 65. I'm trying to have a party now.
What values do you want them to have?
I mean, it's just repetitive. Like, I realize like a lot of things that my parents taught me, like it didn't sink in until later. You know, it's just kind of like, I just want them to be kind, compassionate, intelligent kids that can navigate the world. If they can be that, then whatever they choose is what they choose. So, you know, one of the things I've been telling my youngest daughter, and I tell the other daughters, I'm like, listen, you don't have to be anything, not a thing. I just want you to do your best. And some days your best might be like you're a superstar, you're like LeBron James, you're in everything. And sometimes your best might be like, oh my gosh, that's enough. But as long as you know you're doing your best, that's it. I already paid the dues for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, just do your best.
One of the person you're famous, like you know who's famous, that's pretty popular, is Dan Blizerian. With Dan, is there any story you can share? Because I think in your book you had a little bit, but you didn't call him out. And I know I've seen some photos, so I was curious like what stories or experiences. Because it seems like it seems, at least from the outside image, there are some wild experiences.
I mean, Dan is Dan. Like, he's not really, it is a snapshot of who he is, but it is an authentic snapshot. It's him. He's pretty like outspoken, and he had this whole hedonistic streak that basically has made him miserable about that, you know? Because like the whole thing was like, what gets you women more, fame or money? We knew it was fame, but the experiment was how much more powerful is fame than money? And it's not 10x or 20x what we thought, it's like 100x or 1,000x. And so that was the experiment. And then I was just like, put the brakes. That's why when you were like, hey, can I interview you? This would be a great doc. And I was like, no, I don't want to be the guy. Like, you don't understand. I don't want to be more famous. I don't want whatever, because it's like, I'm trying to live, like I wrote the book for me and I want to be fulfilled and I want to enjoy my life and there's these things I want to do. And if you get too famous, you cannot do them. You just cannot. And then you're in a bubble and you're always hanging out with the same people and other famous people. And you have security guards and you don't get to have like just a normal life. Like you can't just walk in like these nice little shops in Italy and look at the plates. You can't do anything. And so that's the story I can tell you with Jan, is like everywhere we go, it's especially outside the country, it's a zoo.
Yeah, I noticed he hasn't posted. I was just curious. I know seeing you, and I know.
He's trying to not be miserable because it's miserable. You know what I mean? It's like you give up so much. Like we hang out with friends, like we're gonna go travel here, and we're gonna go surfing, and we're gonna go here, and it's like half the activities we do, he's like, I'm just gonna stay on a boat, or I'm just gonna here, or I can't go there, or I can't do this, you know? Because it's like you wind up like hating humanity because it's like a zombie movie for you. Yeah. It's horrible. Whereas I'm anonymous. I look like the pizza delivery boy, you know what I mean? Fucking zipping in and out. Some recognition is fine. It's like a dopamine hit and people saying, hey, I appreciate you wrote your book and thank you or whatever, and they leave you alone. They don't need to go take a photo, but like imagine you're like X level famous. It's just like you just, it's a zombie movie. So he around and he found out that fame gets you a metric F ton of the opposite sex, pursuing you, people you would never think would sleep with you, people you would never think would behave in that way, but it robs you of everything else, completely robs you of everything else.
Any other stories from that you've seen people read the book or your friends or yourself? Or
I get a lot of feedback, a lot. It's overwhelming because I don't want to be the guy, right? Like I wrote the book to save my own life. Like consider like some people journal, right? And I just wanted an app. And I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to write this book, but this book is for me. This changed my life. This changed my parents' life. I've had friends. There was this real estate something. Some guy got up, started crying. It's like overwhelming. It's too much. It's kind of odd, but it's the best feedback, right? Because I wrote it to save my life, and then I hope it saves other people's lives, right? And then I'll explain it because maybe some of your people haven't heard the Save Your Life. They're like, why the Bill Perkins thinks he's saving lives? What the it's just a book. But when we were wake surfing and you started drowning, okay, and I jumped in, I got you out and I gave you mouth to mouth, right? And you, all dramatic. And you were like, you saved his life. Guess what? You're still gonna die. You're 100% going to die. You're just not gonna die that day. So what did I actually do by pulling you out? I gave you more time. I gave you more I love yous. I gave you more experiences. I gave you time with your kids. More adventures that you can do, more side quests, more whatever. That's what I did. I gave you more of that. I just gave you more. I didn't, because you're for shit sure gonna die. So when I write a book about optimizing your life and getting more fulfillment, what do I give them? More I love you, more time with their kids, more of their adventures, more side quests, more than they want, right? As opposed to being on all life, waking up at 65 and be like, where the did my life go? Where did my 40s go? Where did my 30s go? Why did I miss out on this? Why didn't I spend more time with my mom? Why did I make this decision? Because they weren't thinking, they were on autopilot. And so that's how I save people's lives. And so I truly believe that. A lot of people fear running out of money or fear being embarrassed. I fear about wasting my life. See, that is the number one fear. And so that's what the book is about. That's why I'm saving lives.
Saving my life. I love it. It's great, man. It's great. You're known for bets, and I'll wrap up with this. I know you've done a few prop bets.
Yeah.
I'm not a big gambler, but I was like, well, we could end it with like the audience doing some type of prop bet, maybe on their health, maybe on enjoying life more. So I was like trying to think on the drive here, and like the past few days, like, what would be a fun prop bet to do together?
How about this? I got one for you, because you could do it with your kid. Okay, you're out there surfing. You're in the zone of learning. You have to do a 360 by the end of the summer.
The surf out here?
Yes. You have to wake surf and do a 360, land it, and be in it, stay in the wave, and stay standing up.
All right, I'll take that bet.
Or what's the stakes?
$1,000?
Done.
$1,000?
Oh, I can't wait till you land it. I hope you do it, dude.
Okay.
All right?
Bill Perkins, Die with Zero, prop bets.
Prop bets, we got it.
If you like this conversation, you are going to love this video right up here where I talk to another amazing entrepreneur, John Paul DeJoria. He has made billions in 2 separate industries. Hair care, which I don't have any of, and Patron Tequila, which I do have downstairs. So make sure you check out this video up here. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Uncle Noah loves you, and I'll see you out there. Pew, pew.